Fight Voter Fraud Incorporated works tirelessly to promote transparency and accountability in the electoral process, advocating for measures that prevent fraudulent voting and protect our representative republic and the rights of citizens. Linda Szynkowicz and her band of nonpartisans are committed to upholding the integrity of U.S. elections and are currently investigating over 280,000 cases of suspected voter fraud. How can you help to ensure we have one vote for one legal voter? Here's Linda.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm Linda Szynkowicz. This is episode 4 on OBBM Network. So, thank you so much for watching our program. We're going to be discussing so many different topics that have to do with elections. It has to do with absentee ballots. Last week we spoke a little bit about drop boxes. And our program wants to make sure that we cover as many different states as possible. So if any of you have information you'd like us to get out there, please send it to info@fightvoterfraud.org. And I'm the founder and CEO of fightvoterfraud.org. Hence, that's where we'd like you to send the information. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, to start off with, now that the election for November is over, it seems like a lot of people have just become very complacent. And that's like, okay, the election's over. There's really nothing to do. When it is actually quite the opposite. There's a lot that needs to be done. And there's a lot of reviews that are being done on the November election policies, procedures. Next week, we'll have a video for you to look at from Andy Thompson, and he had Mark Cook on from Nevada on the 3 anomalies that they have found. It's a great video, but we'll have that for you next week on the program under Vote Notes. So right now, again, what is important to you? Are your taxes important? Is your planning and zoning important? What about your Board of Education? Anybody? Is it important to you? If it's important to you in your community, on where you live, and the laws and the regulations that are set up by the city or the town council, you should be interested in what goes on with the voter rolls and the cleaning of the voter rolls. With everything that's out there, I mean, I'm not the one that has delved into the machines and Dominion and all of that stuff. What we believe is important as a first step are the voter rolls, to actually have clean voter rolls. And quite honestly, we do not. As hard as some of the election officials are working to make it happen, there's others who are working just as hard, if not harder, to make it not clean for nefarious reasons, or just plain, I don't know, not wanting to do their job, incompetence. Who knows? We can go on for a list, probably a mile long, of why the voter rolls are not cleaned. So what I want to do is bring this back to the ones that are in charge of the voter rolls, the election officials themselves, and the ones that are in charge of making sure anybody and everybody on the voter rolls are supposed to be there. We don't want to disenfranchise anybody. And the fact that one of the things that I see across the country happening are states that want to have U.S. citizenship verification. The uproar with some people over, oh my God, everybody's going to be disenfranchised. It's horrible. It's horrible. You know, how dare Trump have his executive order that wants to have clean elections? You shouldn't be doing that. You should be able to have anybody that they want because you want to make it as easy as possible. Have any of you traveled on a plane? What do you do on a plane? Before you can get on, you have to verify it's you. Really, you don't want somebody else sitting in your seat on the plane pretending it's you. And neither do we for election purposes. Now, I know many of you out there are election deniers, that there's no fraud, that everything is peachy keen. Well, I'm sorry. You can just go live in your bubble because that is not true. Our organization has spent 6 years looking at all the different ways and all the different things that have happened as far as not keeping the voter rolls clean. And as hard as we're working to get them cleaned up, there's still more that are being put on that should not be on. You only want to have voters vote that live in your town or your community. And you only want U.S. citizens. This is America. I know we talked a little bit about it last week about not being able to vote in other elections around the world. We are U.S. citizens and we should be proud of our country. And with that comes a responsibility. The responsibility is for us, all of us, that are eligible to vote, to go and vote. You know how many times I have people tell me, "Oh, I don't like anybody who's running or whatever, and I'm not going to vote." But who are the loudest ones complaining? It's the people that don't bother because they think it's useless or because Linda Szynkowicz is here telling me that there's a lot of anomalies in the voter rolls. Well, that's ridiculous. You need to have your vote heard, your voice heard, even if you are completely opposite of what I believe. This is our opportunity to voice our opinion. That's our vote, our privilege as American citizens. So across the country, I am seeing a number of states that are changing their laws. And it's just so funny. It's like, okay, we're going to make sure we have proof of citizenship. Why wasn't it done before? So what's the big deal? What's the big deal? You bring your driver's license in or your passport or your birth certificate or something that proves that it's you. Oh, did I hear that little voice again saying, oh, people who don't have a driver's license are going to be disenfranchised? No, they're not. There's multiple ways, and the states can step up or the federal government can step up, and you can actually have a voter ID picture taken. You can get a state picture taken. We need to do this. And the other part of things that I'm seeing have to do with the absentee ballots. Absentee ballots have been abused more than you will ever realize. It is incredible. Oh, and one of the other things in the executive order is to only count the ballots the day of the election. No more a number of days later. Why not? Because we don't want to have these ballots flooding in after an election 3 to 4 days later with only ones filled out for the person that they want to win in a close race. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it. You've heard about it. We want to have fair elections. And anybody who thinks proving that you're a U.S. citizen is a bad thing, obviously you are not a proud American. Obviously you don't understand our Constitution and you don't understand our country itself on where we started. We fought to be here. We were outcasts, creating a government that wasn't run by a king or dictators, but all of us to be able to have a voice, whether it's voting people in office who represent us. That's why we have the elections within the states, so people can represent you. Now, some of these elections are actually held on off years, not during presidential elections, like during 2025. So it's important that we have clean voter rolls and only the people that are allowed to vote, 18 years or older, U.S. citizen, and you are a citizen of that county or that town or however you vote, because there's a lot of different ways in the country that votes are done. Some are done by counties, some are done by towns. I mean, it's a little crazy. Some are done by districts that overlap a number of towns. So everybody is very unique, but I really don't think complaining about having to show an ID is a bad thing, or when you register to vote, to prove you're a US citizen. Now we have different things trickling in here and there about, oh, we found, 22 non-US citizens voting, but they add up in local elections. They add up on how it affects your daily life. So right now we have the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa has a law change that's headed to the governor. And guess what? They're going to want to make sure you're a US citizen. I think it's great. But of course, you have others that don't. It also does give the bill gives Iowa Secretary of State Paul Pate the authority to hire a vendor to check the citizenship status of people who have been registered to vote already. I think that's a great thing. We need to make sure people are US citizens. But obviously, there's complaints that, oh, they're trying to change the elections all the time. It's like, no, we're trying to make it more secure. It's little by little through the years, the states have been able to at least implement some voter or election integrity. Unless, of course, you live in the state that I live in, which is the state of Connecticut. Quite honestly, Connecticut is doing their best to go as far away from election integrity as possible. And just recently, we had our Secretary of State, Thomas, in a meeting for the Registrar of Voters, actually refer to us as members of the SS or Nazis. It's really interesting here in Connecticut. Anyway, we're working hard to make sure our voter rolls are clean, and in some cases, they're working very hard to make sure they're not. So kudos to Iowa for stepping forward. Then we have Utah. Utah, in their Herb City, drops ranked choice voting for the 2025 election after they had so much public pushback. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole details of ranked choice voting because it's one of the most ridiculous things that you see as far as how they rank people and how many votes you get. The ones that don't get the most are dropped out, and then they do this whole thing again. I mean, it's crazy. You vote and you vote once. So I'm really glad that Heber City in Utah unanimously said that, no, we're not doing the ranked choice. So that's a very positive thing. So what we've got going on in Michigan is their campaign. They're actually trying to change, or will be changing, the Michigan Constitution, that it will require proof of citizenship to vote. Now, this is a great step. It's not just a law. They are actually going to amend the Constitution. It's taken its first steps. And the first steps are that they have to get about 100,000 or a little more than 100,000 people to sign a petition. But what they're doing ahead of time before putting it on the ballot is they're going through the whole process of making sure the wording is proper, because they don't want it thrown out or someone complaining that the wording was deceiving on how it's being presented to the people to sign the affidavit or to, sign their canvassing that they're doing on this. I think it's fantastic. I think it's what everybody should be doing, is making sure that people prove it's them. Go to a doctor's office. What do they ask for besides your insurance card? They always want your insurance card first. But you need to show your ID to show it is you. Again, the complaints from a particular side are that it's going to be disenfranchising everybody. I don't get it. Do you get it? I don't get it. I want people to prove that they're US citizens in voting in the elections. Again, so we have Michigan that is stepping forward in a big way. Granted, it has a little more to go, and all the door knocking that the people in Michigan are going to have to be doing. I can just see them now warming up, doing those knee bends, and getting ready to go out and start talking to people about their rights to vote. I, again, think it's fantastic. proving you are a U.S. citizen. So if anybody wants to follow that story, again, this one was by Colin Jackson, and it's MPRN, or you can go to electiontransparency.org, and they have stories every day. Every day they have stories on the elections, election integrity, the different bills that are coming up, the different laws. I think it is fabulous that we have so many resources that you can go to. And you don't have to just read one, read multiple stories. That's what I try to do. Try to get the facts in as many places as possible. Or if you find a credible news source, then use them. But make sure that before you decide they're credible, that you fact check a number of their different stories just to make sure. And I don't tell people what I listen to or what I don't listen to, except over Easter and family, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, Indiana. Now here's an interesting story from Indiana. This lawsuit was started in October of 2024. That's before Trump was elected. At the time, the person sitting in the White House was Biden. And what the Attorney General and Secretary of State asked for was help in verifying 585,000 people who voted and registered and voted in the Hoosier state without having proper ID. There was no verification through a driver's license, social security number, etc. So they asked the federal government, could you please check these 585,000 names to make sure they're U.S. citizens? How many of you think they did that? Federal government at that time did not. So there is a lawsuit, and the Secretary of State in Indiana and the Attorney General are confident that under the Trump administration, they're going to be able to get answers and it's going to be resolved. Because that's exactly what our commander-in-chief wants. He wants to have clean voter rolls. And we're headed in that direction. But can you imagine a state having to go and sue the federal government for not doing something they should be doing before an election? They were ignored. It was just, never mind, we're not going to bother. Oh, it's too much. It's crazy. It's crazy. Again, I believe our elections are so important. Not just the federal elections, but our municipal elections. So all of you should be paying attention and be very savvy on who is running in your district, in your county. And if people are asking for support and you believe the same way they believe, help them out. Support them with a donation, because that's the only way they can get their word out there. And some of them that are on the local level are not in the machine where you have somebody else getting the millions and millions of dollars. That even $5 would make a difference to whatever candidate. Like I said, whomever your beliefs align with. And again, making sure everybody knows that this program and our organization, Fight Voter Fraud, is a 501c4 nonprofit. We could have been partisan, but I chose 6 years ago, when I started this organization, that I wanted it to be nonpartisan, straight down the middle. Because who are we fighting for? We are fighting for U.S. citizens. Again, will we always agree on everything? No, we won't. But like I said, we want to make sure only legal voters vote. So again, kudos to the Indiana Attorney General and Secretary of State for moving this forward. I'm sure with everything that our Commander-in-Chief has on his plate and Pam Bondi and everything, that this will rise up to the top as something that is very important, but not just for Indiana, for the entire country, for the other 49 states, to be able to have a system where they can verify whether someone is a U.S. citizen or not. I don't think it's asking that much. Although, then again, some people out there probably do. So I'll tell you, our time goes by fast while I'm sitting here talking to you. And one of the things we kind of kick around before the program is what is going to be on our vote notes. Now, our vote notes is a segment that we are doing on every show towards the end of the program. And you will be able to connect to our website to get additional parts of the story. Well, this one happens to be on the executive order that Trump signed on March 25th of 2025. It has to do with the changes that one particular party is freaking out over, which again includes proving that you're a U.S. citizen and not counting ballots after the election and having restrictions on how absentee ballots are used in a federal election. It's important. It's important for everyone to actually read the executive order, not hearing bits and pieces, not hearing me just tell you a little bit here and a little bit there. You need to take the time to read it. And we will have on our website a link that will go to the entire executive order so you can look at it yourself. Got to tell you, while I was looking it up, the first or the second thing that had come up was an organization that was basically just freaking out over the executive order. And that happened to be the ACLU. Really? You're upset because Trump wants you to make sure you prove you're a U.S. citizen. On their website, you can read this. It says the fact that the executive order directs Election Assistance Commission to change the national mail voter registration form to require documentary proof of citizenship, such as a passport, to register to vote. The order attempts to force states to enact documentary proof of citizenship. Someone want to tell me where the problem is? Once again, I mean, this is what we've been talking about. So you want to make sure they're U.S. citizens. That's like election 101, that you're eligible to vote. So anyway, I want to thank everyone who has been watching our segment. You've been listening to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda Szynkowicz. And you've been listening on OBBM Network. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.